Hey guys, what's going on? I promised a few people in my Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're not in the Facebook group. It's a good place to come and discuss all things stock alerts or reviewed related. And so a lot of people were asking me in direct messages as well, saying, hey, can you tell me what you're doing with Lux Algo? How can I make this work? You seem to be doing well. What's your strategy? And I don't blame them. I've done a ton of videos over the last 2 weeks on this, and there's a lot to Lux Algo. It's very powerful. I've come up with basically a trading strategy that works really, really well for me. I've been really happy with it. And so we can talk through it in this video a little bit. And you can always reach out to me and ask me more details if you want. If you look in the link in the description below though, I'll put a link to this article, which has roughly what I'm doing down here somewhere. Let's see where it is. What works for me right here. And so really I'm just going to be talking a little bit more about that. And seeing what we can get from that too. I'll show you the results that I've had. I've documented them pretty meticulously since the start of this month. So it's the 24th of May, and I started on the 12th of May, you can see right here. And so my strategy with Lux Algo, as well as the rest of my trading, is to keep it really simple and just trade one ticker, which is SPY. A lot of people are saying, hey, you should check out some other tickers, because yesterday, for example, apparently Tesla was doing really, really well on Lux Algo, but I was still sticking with SPY. So these are my results. I've been putting the contracts that I've been doing, usually 0 DTE, but I've been changing to maybe a couple of days out, just for that peace of mind that maybe theta won't decay the contracts too much if I am forced to hold these for more than 10 minutes at a time. So you can see on the right here the profit and loss, and then also the profit and loss percentage. I'm not making home runs here. I think the biggest one ever was this 40% one. Usually averaging between 10 and 20% wins. But I'm also managing the positions as well, so I think that's something I should talk about, because I think some of the wins here would be losses if you weren't being careful with how you manage the position. So I know a lot of people are great traders here, but there'll be a few people that are fairly new to trading and are just blindly following signals. And that can really hurt your profitability overall. Anyway, so the update at the moment, which I'm super excited about, I mean, this is ridiculous. This thing cost $100 for 3 months, right? And I've had a win rate of 75% and a total profit of $8,370 minus commissions on these contracts. So really, really good. And so each position is only $2,000 to $3,000 a time, which maybe seems like a lot to some people, but people with a $50,000 plus account size, maybe it's not that big a position overall. And so let's get started and look in some of these trades. So you can see I've had good spells. There's been a bit of a bad spell. This was just the other day. I'll go into the exact strategy and my thought process in a minute. But yeah, so these tend to work best in trending markets, right? Because what we're doing is we're using on Lux Algo, we're using if you click on here, we're using the confirmation and exits. So I did switch this contrarian stuff the other day because the market was ranging so badly that I thought I'd give it a try, because these are supposed to be better in a ranging market with no real trend. It worked kind of, didn't really help a lot, so I'm sticking with confirmation exits. So that's the first setting that make sure that you're on. Signal sensitivity, I'm just matching it to what the dashboard says. So you can see down here it says 10, it's set to 10 today. Now, I keep things really simple. I've experimented with all the oscillators. If you've been watching the reviews or reading the reviews that I've been doing on this, there's a lot of bells and whistles, and to be honest, I'm pretty much ignoring all of them. The only two things I use on the Lux signals and overlays is the smart trail and the reversal zones. And then sometimes I'll have the dashboard up to keep kind of an eye on things like how the trend's doing, the volatility, and what signal sensitivity it should be on. So these things are all fine and well, right? But, you can do this and you can still not do that well. And so the devil is in the details. So let's go through a couple of trades today that I took. So the first one was pretty straightforward. I actually had this on a different sensitivity, so let me change it back to, it's 12 it was on. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, it was 12. So I set the sensitivity. You can see the signal move slightly. Now here are the differences. So this is the key. This is like really the key, is you don't take trades that are against the trend, right? So for example, this green candle here with the buy signal on it, I only jumped in this when this blue trend turned blue, right? So it was red, so we were trending under this as a smart trail, right? And so I don't take the ones like this one. So if you get a signal when you're below the smart trend and it starts to push up, I don't jump in those because you're going against the trend. The chances of it going up tiny bit and rejecting from the smart trail and going down is much higher. So I ignore those. And there's actually a filter on Lux Algo that can tell you to not even show these, right? So the first thing you have to do is make sure you're going with the trend. So when the trend changed here on this trade, and I'll show you on the spreadsheet which one this was, I jumped in this because I'm like, okay, cool, we've been curling up, we've broken through the downtrend on the smart trail, we now have a positive smart trail, let's see if we can ride this up. And so this one was, if we look at the spreadsheet, this was this one. So here's the thing, the big question is when do you exit, right? So in this case it was pretty obvious. You know, you could have waited until you got a red signal right here and exited here. But that gain is pretty small. If you're chasing here and then exiting on this red candle, because remember the signal doesn't repaint, but it comes at the end of the candle. So don't wait until you have an exit signal. What I found is manage the trades yourself. So just use common sense. For example, if you get within the first minute, so this is the SPY 1 minute trades, right? If you get a couple of green candles and you're up 10%, take at least a third of your position off. That's what I do at least. Sometimes half, depends how nervous I feel. Take into account other simple things like we're hitting this red reversal zone right here. Do you really think that in this downward market that we've had today with sell-off that we're going to have the power to just completely smash through this downward, this reversal zone, this downward reversal zone? In my opinion, the answer was no. So I scaled out some on this candle and then took out the rest very quickly up here. I didn't wait for this to go all the way up and then come all the way back down to here, where I could actually have been at a loss, right? It's possible you could be at a loss if you followed this. And I think this is one of the main things that I'm seeing people doing poorly, or at least the people that are claiming to be doing badly with Lux Algo, is they're not utilizing it as a tool. They think it's just like buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. And nothing is really like that. There's no real magic button that you press to make money. Let's go through the other trade that I just took a little bit ago. Let's pull it up here. So I took puts using this simple strategy. 196. Average after scaling out was just 225, which is a nearly 15% gain. But let's have a look and see where that is. Yeah, it was this guy. Right. So if you're in the Discord that I run, I talked about this trade a little bit. Don't think anybody else took it. I know a few other people took the trade that I was talking about just a few minutes ago. So here's another one. We're below the trend here, so we're below the bearish smart trail, which is great. Big red candle comes in, and you're like, all right, cool. This is looking bearish. We still have a little bit of space down to the reversal zone. So these are all things that I think about when I'm doing this. So I'm like, okay, because if this had come all the way down to here, would you really think that's a good entry? Because you're right at what would be considered support. So in this case, it printed red. I jumped in on this candle. It went against me a little bit. And so for me, the stop would have been, and this again would be money management part of this, the stop would have been here, right, against the smart trail. I'm not prepared for it. If it doesn't reject off the smart trail, then I'm not prepared for it just to continue all the way up here somewhere. And so what I said is hey, if we can break this line, it took 4 or 5 minutes before it finally did, then we're in good shape. But again, you don't want to just assume that this is going to just break down and break this heavy reversal zone. So as soon as this deep red candle came in, it might not look like much on this scale. I immediately scaled out a big portion of my, I've forgotten how much I scaled out, but I scaled out a portion immediately as soon as we got down to here. I held the rest and eventually scaled out all of it here somewhere. So I think that's important because there was no signal on Lux Algo to say take profits at that point. But if you can get 10% or 20% and safeguard your stuff, then it's a good exit strategy. The alternative, right, which is why I think people get burned, is they could have jumped in on this candle, shorted, and then eventually it would have turned up here and they would have got out for a loss even because, the volatility or whatever, going to the upside. So you can't just follow the red and green signals. You can use them as tools, but they also use the smart trail and the reversal zones as tools as well. As you would with any trading strategy, if you're drawing your own support or resistance line, this just saves you a lot of time and effort, right? And so my general tactic is take off 10%. So we'll take off a quarter or a third or even a half of the position as soon as I'm up 10%. So on this drop, I took off a decent chunk, I think a third of this. And so immediately I knew that this was going to be a profitable trade because I wasn't going to let the other remaining, contracts go above break even. So basically it was going to be a win no matter what at that point. And that gives you the confidence and lets you relax a bit and see if you can get like a little more out of the trade. But it protects you. And that's why I think that I've got a decent win rate on this. 75% over 45 trades now. $8,370 profit. And very few losing trades. And when they are losers, they're not 40% losers. They're like 26, 29, 18, 10, 11%, 14%, 5% losers. They're not that bad. So I hope this helps. I've tried to outline it in my articles. This is just the thing I've found works the best for me. It might be different for other people. But you're using this as a tool rather than as a simple God mode type of thing. Another example here that I didn't take is, for example, if you end up in a long here, which you shouldn't in my opinion because it's going against the trend, this is the downwards trend, there'll be people that jump in on this not thinking about the trend, and then they'll end up selling down here for a big loss. So if you were to get into this by accident, for example, and you say, okay, cool, and you're up 10% by the time it starts banging against the downwards trend, the downwards trending resistance, right? You want to take some profits, if not all the profits there, because you realize your mistake. You're like, oh, I'm going against the trend here. That's probably going to reject from the trend. So yeah, so you could turn this little trade into a profitable trade rather than a losing trade. And I honestly think that it's this type of management technique and the way that people use Lux Algo that turns it from a very powerful, very profitable system to one that people are just like, doesn't make me money that fast. You still have to be a good trader, but use these to help you, right? This one would have been a difficult trade. You were going with the trend. This dip, though, you probably, if you were doing 0 DTE or next day 1 DTE, you probably would have got 10% or so on this dip. So you probably wouldn't have ended up taking much of a loss at the end of the day if you're using the right money management. But yeah, this was definitely the trade of the day for me. This was great. So yeah, so I hope that helps. I think there's a few questions about sensitivity. You can either match it to this or you can turn on autopilot. I've done both. Doesn't make a huge difference. But with all the other settings, I've gone through it meticulously. If you've been watching these videos, there's a lot of settings, a lot of oscillators and everything. I haven't found them very useful. I found just sticking to basic position management. Oh, a signal just fired. Let's see what it says. Basically just, yeah, I don't know why I did that. We're already, so this one's working pretty well. You're in a downtrend, you got a negative thing, you're coming all the way down. Here's the price target down here, and you can see it's also in line roughly with the reversal zone that you'd expect too. So even if it didn't imprint these stop and profit losses, profit targets and stop losses on here, you'd still want to be taking profit when you're 10 or 20% up or when you hit this reversal zone. So I seriously think that this has been my favorite way, and I'm going to continue using Lux Algo in this way going forward. Hopefully that's clear. Make sure you go and check out some more of the details in this article. If you're not a member yet, you can get a discount using this link right here. You can use my code STA30 to get 30% off all of Lux Algo's indicators. Click on my referral link, go and pick the 3-month or quarterly subscription, and you can get 3 full months for just $100 if you use STA30 in there, which is a total bargain given how well these signals actually work from my experience. So, alright guys, hopefully that's helpful, and I'll talk to you in the next video.